Projects are part of every business. There is project in every business. Low success rate of projects has been a concern across the globe. Hence, it makes essential for every professional to have a good knowledge of project management to increase the success rate of projects. Hi, I am Jagdish Kumar, BTech MBA and Certified Project Management Professional from PMI USA doing this presentation. Now, why project management? We will try to understand. Only 36% of the projects were successful as per the research. 64% of the projects were not successful. So as you see, the project failures are at very high rate. Among the 64% of the projects that failed, 80% of the projects failed due to reasons which are non-technical. It could be gap in communication, it could be misunderstanding or whatever. Here it becomes very important even for the engineering personnel, though they may be very good in technology. Project management domain being a different area and knowledge by itself, every leading position person should undergo project management is what I suggest. At present, after the implementation of so many project management concepts, understanding the failures, risk management, involvement and so on, the position improved. That the recent research showed that nearly 70% of the projects met their original goals or business intent. However, they would have met with over budget, at least slightly, with some delay, with some scope not being met and so on. And if it is accepted by the customer, the project was considered as successful. So this being not a very good position at all, it underscores the importance of project management knowledge. Now, project is what we will try to understand. What is a project? Project is any new endeavor, a major activity that is temporary. Temporary does not mean very short. Temporary can be as long as say 3 to 4 months, or it can be as long as 5 to 10 years. But for a project, there is a start date and a completion date called the end date. Project should be unique, not done earlier. What we repeatedly do become operations. They are not called as a project in global parlance. Management, if they decide to call as project, it is fine. Now, what is the uniqueness? It could be a unique product that is launched, developed, or unique service, or unique result like ISO certification, or a scale up. For example, I was making 1 lakh pieces of an item per year. Now I have to make 6 lakhs. This will become a huge scale up and will qualify as a project. Now, all these activities become projects only when they start consuming resources, because on the drawing board there may be hundreds of ideas, all do not qualify to be projects. If these 3 conditions are met, then that endeavor or major activity is called as a project. Some of the examples of projects here: constructing a building, there is a start date and an end date; creating a new IT infrastructure; developing a new project or new product or services; effecting a change in organization structure. Earlier in one of the organizations there were 7 layers of management. They reduced it to 4 layers and it led to billions of dollars of saving. It's a global example. That qualifies as a project. Now we will understand what is project management. Project management is application of knowledge. Knowledge is power. We should gain project management knowledge. Anyway, we will have our domain or work area knowledge. That means there are two knowledge contents which are useful. One is the knowledge of the area, maybe a technology, or how to handle and so on, knowledge of the business, and knowledge of project management. Both are essential for project management, and they have to be implemented. Skill. Knowledge when applied leads to skill. You may say skill and knowledge may be overlapping or one and the same. They are not. Skill can come only by doing. For example, any amount of learning how to swim in a classroom does not make me a swimmer unless I get into the swimming pool and physically learn how to do. So skill is slightly different from knowledge. So both are required. Knowledge, application of knowledge, application of skill, application of tools and techniques. Project management teaches a lot of good practices and tools and techniques. If implemented, they will lead to higher success rate for the project. Finally, what for all these are done in project management? To fulfill the project objective set by management, set by customer, and so on. Every word here is important. If required, you can go through 2-3 times to remember this, because you need to implement them in your area as project managers. Now, project management includes what? We will have some overview. Identifying requirements. Please remember, make good effort to understand the requirements of the customers. Sometimes customer will have stated requirement. That will not be a problem. It will be part of the purchase order. But there will be unstated expectations, which if you do not meet, the dissatisfaction will be much more. So please try to capture them by interviewing the customers and knowing their requirements when you make a customized part. Addressing the various needs, especially when you do the project management. It is not customer alone you have to look at. You have to look at several stakeholders. Stakeholders are one. It can be an individual or a group who can influence the project or get influenced by the project. Even customer is a stakeholder, employees whom you are hiring are the stakeholders, legal bodies are stakeholders, and so on. So point number 2, addressing the various needs, concerns, and conflicting expectations of the stakeholders. It may happen or it will happen in major products that expectation of one stakeholder conflicts with the expectation of the other. In such a case, you have to go for what is called as a trade-off, and the best practice from my vast experience is that talk to people, communicate to them what you are doing, why you are not able to do a particular thing, get their consent, and then move forward. After convincing them, this is the best approach. Third part, setting up, maintaining, and carrying out communications among stakeholders. 90% of the activity in project management includes correct communication. Please remember, in communication, do not forget to communicate whatever is required to the concerned. Do not forget to communicate to the concerned, but communicate to the concerned only. Do not send the communication to somebody who does not require. It can be waste, it can be wrongly interpreted also by them. Now, next point, managing stakeholders towards meeting project requirements and deliverables. As we do the activities, as we plan the activities, always the goal should be in your mind. Goal is meet the projective objectives. When you meet the project objectives, only the project becomes successful. So your mind should always be questioning yourself, I am doing this, does it contribute to my goal or not? If not, it becomes non-evaluated. You can reduce that or remove that. Agile practices. Nowadays, we talk of agile practices. Agile practices are part of project management. What is agile in brief? Where it is a parallel activities done by the concerned people with the assignments not done in the beginning. As the work evolves, they recognize the work content and assign it to the best person, and work happens parallelly. This is what is agile in very simple words. I will explain this in future sessions. Now, moving forward, next point, balancing the 6 competing project constraints. Please remember these 6 constraints as you do the project management. Very important. One, scope. What I have to deliver, I have to deliver. The scope of the work should be met. For example, if I have to make a radar of 450-kilometer range and I make a radar which is only 380-kilometer range, customer will never accept. The scope was to make a radar of 450-kilometer range, nothing short of scope. So please understand the scope and deliver the scope. Here I would like to request you, once you form up the scope, take customers' concurrence or the stakeholders' concurrence and do not deviate from that much, because if you do the deviation, it is called in project management as a scope creep. More you deviate from the scope, you will get away from the goal, as well as you will end up doing lot of non-value adding activities. Quality. Unless you deliver quality, there is no completion of the project successfully. Quality requirement should be understood well before and should be implemented. Schedule is very important. You know, customers charge late delivery charges if you don't deliver on time. So scheduling should start right from the beginning by having a PERT chart or a critical part method, and using that to see that the project is on track as far as schedule is concerned and the project is completed on time. Budget is very important. Maximum number of projects suffer this problem of spending more than a budget. So budget also is a constraint within which, if the project is completed, the expectation of the management is fulfilled. Resources can be anything. There are 6 resources: man, machine, material, method, money, and management is also a good resource. Good management is a good resource for project management. And then please remember the most important point coming again here: risk. More you do the risk management, proactively you will be solving the risks well before they really occur and damage your projects. Please remember these 6 competing project constraints. They are shown picturesquely here. Also please remember, if one is changed out of the 6, it will have impact on at least 1 or 2 of the remaining. For example, if we go for quality and try to go for a better material so that the quality is higher, now what happens? The cost goes up. That may impact my budget, and that particular item may not be easily available. Then my risk goes up. Like this, if you touch one, it may have impact on the remaining 5. So this has to be also understood and remembered. There are 5 phases or process groups in project life cycle. This also you please remember. First is initiating the project. Initiating the project is very important. What we do here, we speak to customer, get their requirements, try to understand their expectations, understand other stakeholders' requirement. There could be a legal concern, there could be a regulatory requirement to be fulfilled, there could be a skill requirement that is required, there could be manpower requirement that had to be mapped, like major risks. What is the budget required? All these are computed in the initiating phase and a project charter is released. This I will explain in detail in the higher level topics. Second phase is planning. As I have been telling, failing to plan is planning to fail. Once you have the project scope, project risk, stakeholders, milestones ready in your project charter, use them to develop a detailed project management plan. Please remember, if one document gets repeated revisions, that is a planning document, that is project management plan. Next comes executing. What do you mean by executing? Your execution is doing work. Please remember, many people now lose track here. Execution of the plan incomplete is very important. Then only execution phase is complete. Execution of plan what you have drawn up. Incomplete is when the execution is getting completed. Execution is the phase where maximum resources are actually consumed. Then right from initiating to the point number 5, which is closing, one activity that is common and has to be done periodically as required is nothing but monitoring and controlling. You know, what is not measured is not understood, and once you have measurements only, you can do periodic monitoring. And also remember, what is not monitored is not controlled. So monitoring and controlling is a throughout activity in project management, right from initiating to the last, that is closing. Closing of project is also equally important, because many a times we close the project after delivering successfully the result to the customer or the product to, or service to the customer, but we forget to close some of the agreement. For example, supplier agreement to supply more items, and unknowingly or knowingly he may supply further items after the closure of the project. What do? We had an example in one of our earlier companies. 3 crore worth of the item was actually open in the PO. Project was closed successfully and with a lot of savings, and the project manager forgot to close the contract with the supplier. 3 crore worth of item landed in our factory, and it became a big affair to liquidate that item and dispose the item. Now, some of the project management areas we need to be careful about and covering when we do the project management plan and when you do the complete project management. One is project integration management. In PMI language, they call it as project management knowledge areas. There are 10 project management knowledge areas. What is project integration? It may happen, it's a large project where there are say 30 project team members, and they may be working in say 10 teams. If different people work in their own direction, what happens? What work one does becomes a non-requirement or a conflict for the second team, and so on. There would be cross purposes. The team will be working in cross purposes, one nullifying the benefit created by the other, and so on. So they have to be seamlessly integrated and aligned in one direction. This is called as project integration management. This is very important. All should be aligned in one direction, that is to achieve the goal of the project, and all works should be only in that direction, not working in cross purposes. Project scope management, as I told, if you don't deliver the scope including the safety features they are asked, the project cannot be completed, and you will not be able to successfully close the project. Next, project time management. This is one of the constraints that we saw there also in our 6 constraints also. Very important. Many projects get delayed. So please remember, 1 out of 10 project management areas, time management is also one of the important area to remember. Project cost management, because money is very important in project. Managing the budget becomes really a rope walk for project managers, as I have experienced. Project quality management. Quality goes without saying. If you don't deliver, project cannot be completed successfully. So this also has to be given focus. Next, project human resource management. After all, we are dealing with the people. Different people have different aspirations. Different people have different competencies. Networking them together, getting the best out of them is really an art, a skill that should be also remembered during project management to get the best out of people. Then project communications management. As I told, maximum activity in project becomes communications. Communications within the team, communications outside to sponsors like management, communications to customers, communications sometimes to legal bodies, sometimes not with the external agencies like suppliers, and so on. Please remember, communications should be very clearly managed. Communication should reach all concerned and concerned only. If one concerned person does not receive an important communication, because it hurts his ego, he can take the project for a ride if he is a very important customer or a stakeholder. Please remember the sensitivity of communication. Next, project risk management, we understood. Risk can be in the negative scale, what is undesirable, but in global parlance, they call opportunity also as a positive risk. So please familiarize with global terminologies. Negative risk is something undesirable which is likely to happen. Positive risk is an opportunity which has to be maximized. Project procurement management. This is a very important area where the money flow out to suppliers and other agencies happen. If you put highly talented people here, they can save the project cost up to 10%. Now it is a good practice in global companies that good talents are put in procurement group because there is a lot of potential in saving money and delivering the required result. Last but equally important is project stakeholder management. Stakeholders are many, as I told earlier. These stakeholders' requirements should be met. Sometimes they may be conflicting. In such a case, you should do trade-off and take the stakeholders along with you. Otherwise, they will not allow the project to be successful. So please remember that this point is also equally important. Now, why projects fail? I told huge number of projects really fail if you are not careful, if you are not applying the project management knowledge as such. Misunderstood requirements, failure to gather all the requirements of the customer. If you had noticed in my very first slide, I had shown that cradle from the tree, swing from the tree. The first picture shows what the customer wanted. The last picture, the 10th picture, shows what was delivered by the company, because design group thought differently, marketing people thought differently, production people thought differently, procurement was done differently, testing was done differently, and finally what was delivered was different from what customer wanted. This cannot be a successful project. It's an interesting figure I gave in the first slide for you to enjoy. Too optimistic budgets very tight, reasonable budget using earlier lessons learned we should prepare, or we should take the inputs from the experts within the organization, or you can hire consultants also to know what is the appropriate budget to keep, what are the schedules to plan, and please do not do reactive planning. Not doing the risk management leads to reactive planning. After the failure, you do the damage control. It is not a good practice at all. You would have delays, you would lose lot of revenue spent extra for handling that damage. Inadequate risk assessment and risk management is very important because it is proactive. That is why in ISO now they are not talking about preventive actions, they are talking about risk management, because preventive action can be considered as a subset of risk management. This is a proactive action, not to be missed at all. If this is done not inadequately, definitely project will have failures. Inconsistent standards. We should have one particular level, particular established process and meet it. For example, if I am in a consumer durable market like manufacturing, say refrigerators, if the competitors are following particular safety standards, electricity saving 5-star, I would say the design and so on, and if I do not fulfill, I cannot be in the market. So industry standard or the customer standard or the military standard for defense equipments have to be understood and fulfilled. If you show inconsistency here, project will definitely get rejected and project will fail. Poor people management, very important. Handling people is an art, and this should be mastered by every good project management personnel. Missing skills, unaligned team. Skill set not being there will be a huge drawback. Sometimes proactively this may have to be planned through training well in advance. Unaligned team, as I told you, project integration is not done. People will do their work in their own direction, the way they think it's good, and finally you will see one undoing the other, and so on, leading to a lot of failures and damages to project. Lack of communication, I told, this is the most important, I would say, aspect, not to be ignored, because it involves people and it involves sensitivity. Poor stakeholder management. Any stakeholder not happy, the project cannot be closed successfully. Either they will not permit that project to be closed, or there will not be any approval from them to close the project. They are major stakeholders. Inadequate interface management, which is interface among several agencies, like management to the team, project manager to project team to other external stakeholders, even suppliers, legal bodies, and so on. These interfaces have to be correctly managed. It can be technical interfaces, it could be the managerial interfaces. Lack of business focus. Initially, people take things easy rather, and afterwards it comes to a level where it becomes beyond a manageable level. Please remember, handle the risk, handle the danger at the earliest. It will be very easy to manage. This has been my experience. If you allow the risk damage to persist, afterwards it scales up or it escalates into such a level that you may not be able to handle that at all. So have business focus. Poor change management. What is permanent or what does not change is change. So you should not fight against the change. If the change is inevitably, quickly adapt to the change. This is what I would request each one of you to follow. Then overall, all these are nothing but poor project management. Poor project management leads to project failure. On the other hand, if you equip yourself with good project management knowledge, you are going to succeed in project management. And you know, project management is a highly rewarding career in the world now, because of the reasons that I have covered already. How IT projects fail, just to focus on those people who are from IT domain and maybe watching this. Research has shown that the top 5 reasons why large IT projects fail are 5 reasons, top 5 reasons only I will cover. Unclear objectives, gap in capturing all the objectives and requirement, or lack of communication and effort in the beginning. Unrealistic schedule, shifting requirements, either driven by customer or you realize later that this cannot be done. This is a risk which is common, but you should be proactively handling this. This is called as progressive elaboration, where in the beginning of the project your knowledge will be much less. Don't panic. Split that task into manageable tasks, and then give it to concerned people. See that the actions are aligned in one direction, and stick to the requirement, that is scope of work. Do not shift much. If it has to be shift, the consequences have to be told clearly to the management. Consequences have to be showed clearly to the customers, including the commercial impact. Unaligned team, this we discussed already. Unexplained causes, sometimes some unforeseen reasons also could lead to this, like we expected that our skill set would suffice, now we find our skill sets are not adequate. These could be the causes, or it could be a cause, I thought the vendor software company can do it, I had subcontracted, now I find they are not delivering. So after understanding this, I conclude with this. Please subscribe to my channel. Please press bell icon. Please don't forget to press like button if you have liked this simple presentation. It's only a beginner. Afterwards, I'll take higher level topics also on project management. Thank you so much.